338. Back to you.
Hello, I've got you as a 5-in-1 into my two parts. I'm learning the next switch in one of the previous offices you're at. Will you know, same part number is 2482, and second part number is 3381. And like what he said, you're one of the first YouTubers on our nation, and definitely help me get interested in the hobby and getting out and make sure a little bit more. Back to you.
All right, well, hey, that's great to hear. Great to hear. So I really appreciate it, and I'm glad to get you on the air and to get you in the log. So you guys, you have a great activation today. Bandwidth is where the big Kansas coil gets interesting. On the upper bands, say 20 meters and above, this coil has enough bandwidth to cover the entire band. You can tune it mid-band, top, or bottom of the band, your choice, and you're going to be set. But for the lower bands, 40 and 80 meters, you may need to make adjustments, for the top or the bottom of the band, depending on where you're going to be operating. But let me show you how a wider coil can make a difference to the available bandwidth with this demonstration on the 80-meter band. To demonstrate the difference a wider coil can make in regards to bandwidth, I did some measurements, comparing the big Kansas coil to the Wolf River Silver Bullet 1000 coil. Both setups used Faraday cloth, a 213-inch whip fully extended, and 50 feet of RG8X coaxial cable. In measuring the 2-to-1 bandwidth of the Wolf River coil, I found on the 80-meter band, I got about 230 kilohertz. I switched out coils, and on the 80-meter band, the wider Big Kansas coil exhibited 250 kilohertz of bandwidth. The Big Kansas coil had an extra 20 kilohertz of bandwidth compared to the Wolf River coil. That might sound like much, but on the low bands, that can make quite a difference if you're moving around, looking for a spot to transmit, and you don't want to constantly retune the coil. On the bands higher than 80 meters, the Big Kansas coil has enough bandwidth to cover the entire band. So what are my thoughts on the Big Kansas coil? On the whole, I'm pretty impressed with it. This coil is lightweight, and its design is very well thought out. Even though it is 3D printed, I found it to be quite rugged. The coil has been bouncing around in my kit for the last few weeks as I've taken it to several Parks on the Air activations. I really like the scale that's printed on the side of the coil. This can be useful if you want to record your settings. Sometimes tuning these coils can be challenging. And if you have a reference that you can go back to for a certain band or frequency, that will make the tuning process easier. The coil works well with a ground screen or Faraday cloth, and the radial winders, if you're going to use the wire, the radios are very well designed. The silicone wire on the radios is easy to work with, and you can also partially wind the radios to aid in matching on the higher bands. In all regards, the coil does its job, and it does it quite well. Performance is very good with the coil. Band conditions have been quite variable over the last couple of months, but I never felt like the coil was underperforming. In fact, the times I have used it on the 40-meter band, I always get solid contacts, even in marginal band conditions. Now, if there's anything that I could be critical about this coil, it would probably be the ground connection right here. This screw terminal for the ground has a plastic thumb wheel, and it makes it difficult to attach radials or jumpers if you're going to use those thicker Mueller spring clips. I mentioned that to the manufacturer, and they're willing to change this out to a brass screw, so hopefully my criticism on that will be unfounded. The other thing I found with this coil is it is very light, maybe a bit too light. I was using it during a very windy day, and the coil had a propensity to fall over in gusts over 25 miles an hour when the whip was, 213-inch whip was fully deployed. There is a hook on the bottom of the base unit that you can secure this for very windy conditions. But I ended up just putting my bag on the base to help keep it upright. So, be aware of that if you're going to use this in a windy place. Final words, if you're looking for a lightweight, high-performance, base-loaded coil that offers better bandwidth on the lower bands, then I would recommend the Big Kansas coil. Well, thank you to Big Kansas Coil for supplying an antenna system for this review. Big Kansas Coil is available direct from their website. Links are in the video description below. Do you have any questions?
fans and media question Kyle Busch's commitment to Richard Childress Racing, his crew chief jumps in to defend him, and Justin Haley sort of quashes those recent silly season rumors. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Group. Some interesting topics to tackle today. Let's start with Kyle Busch. On Saturday, Kyle Busch raised some eyebrows when he was asked about his contract situation and had this to say, quote, "Anything is possible always. If I was welcomed by JGR, I would go back. If Hendrick welcomed me back, I'd go back. But right now, I'm at RCR with my guys and the deal I have right now in place. So we're trying to work and build this program and make RCR great again." The first bit, where Kyle Busch appears to acknowledge that he would rather drive for either Hendrick or Joe Gibbs Racing, that's what caught everyone's attention.
With the serious glitches on the Boeing Starliner recently, it's hard to trust in the safe re-entry capability of the spacecraft. So a terrible scenario seems to be foretold. NASA astronauts could be stranded on the ISS. This is now officially mentioned and confirmed by experienced experts. They also highlighted the urgency of a rescue mission aboard SpaceX Crew Dragon. Find out everything in today's episode of TechMath. As you might know, Boeing Starliner, one more time, has already slipped its return date to June 22nd instead of June 18th previously and June 14th as the original schedule. It brings the total number of days astronauts stay on the ISS to 16 days, more than twice as long as initially planned. The additional time will allow astronauts and engineers to fix the issues, including helium leaks, glitches in thrusters, and other problems. A Boeing spokesperson said the integrated NASA-Boeing Starliner mission management team is monitoring the overall health of the spacecraft and adhering to our mission flight rules. Even with this smallest helium leak discovered after docking before the system was closed, we determined we have approximately 70 hours of free flight activity and continue to have full redundancy in all critical systems. They added, despite the positive declarations from the company, we all are concerned about the risk of NASA astronauts stranded in space on the ISS. Boeing Starliner can only stay docked on the ISS for a total of 45 days due to limited fuel in the orbit laboratory. What if beyond that time the problem remains unresolved? Has NASA planned for that bad scenario? Everything could have been smooth if Boeing and NASA had redoubled safety checks and re-examined safety protocols to make sure the Starliner was safe before something catastrophic happened. Yes, this is thinking of a NASA contractor who urged the American Space Agency to ensure Starliner's safety before launch. Aaron Favell, president of ValveTech, raised concerns about the June 6th launch. I warned, I will choose to let it play out. Starliner took off at 10:52 a.m. ET from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida on June 5th. Finally, it launched on schedule, underscore thanks to NASA and Boeing, ignoring the safety warnings involved in the helium leak point, which had been detected since a scrub in May. Hours after separating from the Atlas rocket, 2 more leaks were sprung. The 4th one was found after docking on June 6th, and the most recent hit on June 10th. To add fuel to the fire, 4 thrusters malfunctioned during the flight. And now, to sort out all that mess, the officials must extend Starliner's stay on the ISS, possibly indefinitely. Why did I note possibly indefinitely? Well, let experts explain. Mike Gruntman, professor of astronautics at the University of Southern California, said that it is highly unfortunate that Boeing Starliner, after so much delay with its flight, continues to face problems. For decades, Boeing was one of the most admired aerospace and defense companies. It is a true national tragedy. Talking about the helium leaks, Gruntman suggested that the problem stemmed from manufacturing issues. Multiple similar issues, helium leaks, with seemingly similar components, as reported in the press, point to a systemic problem with design or workmanship, or testing, or system engineering, or a combination thereof, he explained. The leaks and thruster malfunctions would be very difficult to fix in space. Rudy Ridolfi, former Space System Commander and Space Technology Acquisition Manager, added, "The last thing you want to do is maintenance in orbit," he continued. Boeing has had consistent problems with its Starliner, regardless of the delays. We are seeing the same components have the same problems. There is no third independent verification and validation, doing follow-ups on self-inspections. This is a cost-cutting measure, but without enough oversight, problems are going to crop up. On the other hand, we also raise some positive views. The news is that they are on the ISS, and not like the Apollo 13 trying to get home from the moon. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone at NASA is getting a SpaceX Dragon capsule ready for a rescue mission. According to NASA's internal schedule, Dragon Crew 9 will occur no earlier than August. It will arrive at the space station for a short-duration handover with NASA's SpaceX Crew 8 mission. Mike Russell said that it is more likely that SpaceX would be able to provide an additional launch in the foreseeable future to bring the astronauts back. Kazuo Kurabayashi, professor of aerospace engineering at New York University, also shared, given the current situation with the Starliner, it is possible that NASA could decide to use an alternative spacecraft, like SpaceX's Crew Dragon, to bring the astronauts home safely. The final decision would depend on the severity of the helium leaks, the feasibility of repairs, and the logistics of arranging another spacecraft for the return mission. So, how about you? Is a rescue mission aboard SpaceX Dragon necessary in this case? Say yes if you agree. Anyway, if you find this useful, please give us a share, like, and subscribe. Your support will be a huge motivation for us to release more quality videos in the future. And now let's come back. So, how much will the failure of the Starliner project affect Boeing's overall situation? This is probably the question that most people are interested in currently. To be honest, space is just a part of Boeing's defense, space, and security business unit, or BDS. And in Boeing's revenue by sector in 2023, BDS just generated 32% of the company revenue at nearly $25 billion. It's worth noting that $25 billion are also made up of non-space activities, such as contracts for military helicopters, fighter jets, and munitions. Meanwhile, the company's financial strength is its commercial aircraft business, bringing in nearly $33 billion USD, or 44%, by 2023. So, when Boeing commercial planes hit a series of trouble, costing the company at least $32 billion since 2019 with no end in sight, it dealt a devastating blow to the over 100-year-old firm. However, it does not mean space does not matter for Boeing. To save the company from bankruptcy, it will have to utilize all of its advantages. Boeing doesn't break out of the space business. Its heritage actually dates back to the dawn of the U.S.'s venture into space. You can see clearly differences all over major aspects of the Apollo missions, or in the construction and operation of the International Space Station.
Hey, Mike, I see you. I'll get you in there. Hold on. It's a stage. There we are. Hey, hey, hey. And of course, the camera's messed up again. How's everybody doing today? This is Mike, KO4PDI. Hold on. I'm configuring my video. Thought I had this all set up, and for some reason, it looks like crap. There, we're bringing it back. Bringing it back, not that much. Maybe turn down the brightness a little bit. Man, I tell you, this OBS software, it's complicated. Let me just check my filters. Chroma key is on. Okay, we got that all working. All right, well, it's as good as it can be expected. How's everybody tonight? This is Mike, KO4PDI. Hold on, let me turn the volume down on this radio. KO4PDI, your ham fun guy. Yes, we are doing my weekly podcast, and we got some impressive little stories for you. We got a couple of guys on here today from, drumroll, CSN Technologies. We just had a nice Zoom call at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and my good friend Mike Satteretti, here he is. There's the handsome gent. Can I hear you, Mike?
Hello, everybody.
Yes,
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Hopefully,
Very well.
Frank and Keith should be joining us shortly.
Oh, beautiful. Frank is here. He's a shy guy. He never turns his camera on. Look at this.
Okay.
He never turns on his camera. Come on, Frank, turn on your camera. We want to see your handsome mug. You bastard. What's the matter with you? Okay. I'm trying to get you to show up, Frank, but I got no sound from you. I got nothing, but say hi, Frank, or I'm going to dump you. All right, we'll put you on the side. Let me know when you want to come on. Michael, I've had so many people asking me about the SAP box and about CSN technologies. How do you do this? How do you do that? The truth of the matter is, I did a video a couple of months ago, and I titled it "The Rosetta Stone of Satellite Workers," because that's who it helps the most. It's absolutely incredible. This little box does so much. I'm going to move my StreamYard screen to another screen so it looks like I'm looking at you when I talk to you. It's a little bit better. Anyway, yeah, I mean, we got Macron here, MI7 DJT. He's from Northern Ireland, and he's visiting us, and he's happy. He says woohoo. And Roger's here. Roger, I've helped Roger out with a bunch of stuff on the SAP box. I love. Oh, hold on, everybody, hold on. We have drum roll, maestro. Frank is going to show us his handsome mug. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. It's Frank. He came out of hiding. He put his head down, pulled the hat down real far. How you doing, Frank?
Muted. You muted.
Turn your mic on, Frank.
Complicated.
No, I
18
muted
years
you.
in broadcasting.
There you are. How many years did you work in broadcasting? 18
at NBC New York.
Hold on, I got to shut this off. I got my open spot and my All-Star note on this HT. I forgot to shut it off. How you doing, Frank? It's like I haven't seen you in an hour.
At least. My goodness.
I actually have IO 117 lined up. It's making a pass right now. It's not that good yet. Let's see. It's only at 8 degrees coming up from the south.
Is it back?
I don't know. I'm waiting to see if I see any signals on the waterfall. Usually, I don't get any signals from the IO 117 until it's about 10, 15 degrees up. Why? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. My antenna is a freaking monster. Let me do something here. Hold on. I want to show you my antenna. Here's my antenna. That's a 22 element, 12-foot long, 70 centimeter antenna that I picked up from, I think it's N9HF, David in Ormond Beach, Florida. He built that with stuff he bought at Home Depot. And damn, it's a great antenna. It gets probably 22 dB gain, not dBi, 22 actual dB gain on that antenna, which is pretty darn cool. I like it. So I've been using it now, ever since I put up the tower. That was the impetus for having to put up the tower, because I could not put that on the rotor on the 20-foot pole I had it on, because it would hit the guy ropes as it was flipping and stuff. So I said, I gotta, and then a friend of mine said, you need a tower. And I was like, what? He goes, you need a tower. And he gave me a 50-foot tower, of which only 40 feet is up right now. There's going to be another 10 feet within about a week. I'll get the other 10 feet on there. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's a beautiful little tower. And the free tower has only cost me about $3,000 so far. So I'm doing good.
Like they say, nothing is free.
Right.
Yeah, the 2-meter antenna on that tower is a diamond antenna, diamond 2-meter with about 10 dB of gain. IO 117, that doesn't really matter because you don't need 2-meter on IO 117. I hope it's back. I haven't. I could switch over to. I just moved that to another window. I don't see anything yet on the waterfall. I can just turn the volume up a little bit. I'll hear it. If the data comes over, I'll let you know. We'll try to make some contacts on it. So, Mike, I told people on my stream the other night, I was doing an ISS stream. I told people that how I found you. And the reality was, in my area, there was a guy that had an iGate, and he just all of a sudden stopped. He took it down. It doesn't work anymore. So from Jacksonville, Florida to Daytona Beach, there were no iGates. So there was nobody to forward APRS and stuff like that. So I started looking around for building an iGate. Oh, I just heard data on this 117. There it go. Oh, maybe it's working. Cross your fingers. So anyway, what happened was I was looking for, I found your iGate Mini, which you don't make anymore, I guess, or it's been off the market. But next to it, I'm looking at this little box that has SAT on it. I'm like, what the hell is that? So I got it, and now, mind you, when I got into this, I started with Heavens Above, and I had to get an Android phone because it doesn't have the software for an Apple phone, for an iOS. I literally got another telephone so I can get Heavens Above on it. And then I had GoSat Watch, and then I had ISS Detector, and there was a bunch of other ones in the mix, and everything was $10 here, $10 there. I'm spending money on stuff left and right. They didn't always all agree. They were getting their data from the wrong places or different places, and nothing agreed. And they say, oh yeah, ISS is going to be right here at this time. And the other one says, no, it's going to be right here at this time. The other one says it's going to be over here. I'm like, well, which one's right? You're like pissing in the wind. You can't find a sat. If you don't know where the satellite is and what the frequency is, you might as well just give up. You're not going to just by accident come across it. So I remember I asked you guys, because I had been burnt a couple of times by people that made promises they couldn't keep. And I don't know if it was you, Michael. By the way, Glenn Madormer says hi. I just talked to him about 10 minutes ago. I tried to get him
I
to
said
come
hello.
on. I will. I tried to get him to come on. He didn't want to come on, but I did tell him, I'll say hi for him. So anyway, so now I asked you guys, come on, is this legit? Do you use this? Is this just something you built? Back then, it didn't have GPS, didn't have it. You had to put all your stuff in manual. And I think it was like $179 or $175 at the time. And I said, well, I'll buy it. If it sucks, I'll send it back. And I bought it. And I tell people when they go to your website, when they see that first quote that says, within 5 minutes, I was hearing signals, and within 8 minutes, I was talking to people. That was me. I sent you that email and told you that. And I was blown away by it and how simple it was. I mean, people see all the wires going to it for the rotor and all that. And what they don't realize is nothing is technically connected to the computer. Nothing. It's just controlling the rotor and everything through Wi-Fi. It gets the signal and knows where you are. And I try to explain that to people how simple it is. Well, since then, Gary K2PLL, who you've probably heard him on the satellite, he's on every pass on every satellite from Virginia. I was his first ISS. I was his first satellite contact, using the sat box. He heard me and he went out and got one, and he loves it. And then there's a bunch of other guys, W4KSY, Terry, I think he's in North Carolina. He's on it all the time, and he uses it all the time, and he loves it. So this thing has come a long way, and it's not stopping. You guys are still improving this thing. Tell people what's in the future, what you got going on.
Well, just to give you a little bit of a background, we all wanted to start to work satellites, and we had antenna setups with rotators and COM ports and all kinds of things that were very complicated to use. And when you install software and then your computer crashes, or a Windows update comes and everything gets hosed up and jammed up, we really wanted to avoid that and stay away from that. So three of us, Frank, Keith, and myself, we started to shoot different ideas at each other until the SAT was basically born. We made it compatible with ICOM radio first, because ICOM is the only one that makes a satellite radio currently in production. And we also picked the G5500 rotator because it was easy to set up, and we knew that we could eliminate that GS232, which adds about $700 to the cost of your satellite system. So we got to eliminate that. We eliminated software. We made the SAT tracker with a web interface. So once you put it on your network, it's very easy to connect it right to your computer or tablet or smartphone right through the web browser, like you said. So right now at this time, we are compatible directly with Yaesu rotators and ICOM radios, but you can use other rotators using a program called PST Rotator. Now, what we're working on, and hopefully will be out shortly, is a Bluetooth model that will be able to support Yaesu as well as Kenwood and Flex radios. And we're trying to see if there are any Bluetooth rotators out there that we can make it compatible with, so that We cover all of the different satellite radios that are out there, as well as different rotators that are out there. So that's one of the products in the sat world that we're coming out with. And then hopefully the new iGate Mini will be coming out soon, which the boards are done. We're just working on the software, and then we're going to do some testing with it. And that one has built-in messaging, so it's easy to send messages to different APRS IDs. It also will be a 1-watt transmitter. So if you put it up on a mountain somewhere, you can use it as a digipeater. Eventually, if you want to hook it up to an amplifier, you can make it have a little bit more power. But so the one that we currently made, yes, like you mentioned, it is discontinued right now. The parts became very expensive and we couldn't keep it reasonably priced. And we're all about reasonably priced and easy to use, as well as great customer service.
Excellent. And that's true. When I first got mine, I was having issues with the rotor, and you guys got right on a Zoom call with me and you helped me out and helped me set it up, and it was a piece of cake after that. If people aren't familiar with what a Rosetta Stone is, that was the stone they found while searching through the rubble of ruins in Egypt that gave them the ability to decipher the hieroglyphics in the pyramids and stuff like that. So it was really pretty cool that they were able to do that. Well, this thing brings together your TLE data, your frequencies for your radio. It controls your Doppler effect. It will control a rotor if you have a rotor. You know what I want to do, Mike? I want to get a simple, portable, lightweight rotor to use with this portable. So I could throw my Arrow 2 on it and sit down at a table with my radio and run the thing. And that's the plan, at least. Oh, here comes Keith. How you doing, Keith? We see you there. We'll add you to the book. Oh, you're shy like Frank. Okay.
No, I'm working on it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you fine, Keith.
All right,
Put
let me
your clothes on, and then you can come on live.
Right. Let me just fix my microphone here.
You sound good.
That's better.
Anybody in the chat? There are 7 people watching us right now, but the good news is this stays up on my YouTube forever. So anybody can come back and look at this. So anybody in the chat, if you have any questions, I put the link to join the feed in the chat. So just click on it and you're right in here and I'll get you on the screen with us. Anybody, anywhere.
And if you're watching,
come.
Yeah, and if you're watching it in a recorded version and you have any questions, if you go to our website, www.csnsat.com, and you click on the contact us link, we'll get an email and we'll answer your questions there.
Wonderful. So I never met Mike and Frank. I never met Keith, but I've worked with them on a Zoom call, I believe, setting up the rotor. But Frank and Mike came down to Hamvention this year down in Orlando, and I got to meet them finally. Thank you for the CSN Technologies hat. That was very nice of you. And
you're very welcome.
Finally got to see you in person. We had never met in person. And I'm telling you, you guys came up with this, and all I kept telling you constantly is get your butt to Hamcation. Come to Huntsville. Come, get out of the house. Come, you could sell this because I know the value of this thing. It is so valuable. I have the secret weapon here. He didn't mention it, but there's a little thing on the front of this one. You see what it says? BT. It's going to have Bluetooth eventually. This is a prototype, and I'm working with it and playing with it. I even tried hooking it up to my 705 the other day, and the 705 sees it every time I turn it on. It syncs up with it if that has power. And that kind of screwed me up on a live feed yesterday. I did a live feed of an ISS pass and an RS-44 pass back to back. And all of a sudden, it's not aiming the antenna. It's not changing the frequencies on the radio. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I forgot I had turned on my 705, which linked to it, which then made that not link to my Wi-Fi because now it's connected via Bluetooth. I was like, uh-oh, I screwed it. I broke it. And then I'm like, no, just unplug the power and plug it back in. Make sure the 705 shut off. And that's what I did. And everything came back. So it worked. It worked the way it was supposed to. And as soon as we get that thing working on the 705, I don't know. We were talking during the Zoom call about an hour ago with a guy. That gentleman that was on there, his name was Kevin, the guy that was talking about using full duplex radios. Michael.
Yes,
He
yes, that's
he
Kevin.
worked. He was once involved with AMSAT, I believe, or something.
Kevin is the I think he's the vice president or president of the Kennedy Space Center Amateur Radio Club, and he also works at the Kennedy Space Center as one of their directors. So he's
Oh,
very
I got to
knowledgeable.
be friends with him.
He's very knowledgeable on the ISS and lots of information. And he owns a sat tracker also, and he's very knowledgeable. And we've zoomed with him as well as many of our other customers. And a
Right.
lot of suggestions and things have come from our users, and we implement them into the protocol and program of the sat tracker because we're not all experts on it, and everybody operates differently. Some people only do digital, some people only do FM, some people only do sideband. So it's very it's hard to judge how everybody does it. I only use my satellite radio for basically satellite stuff. I don't use my 9700 for terrestrial work, but some people do. So they asked if we could change it back to a set frequency for them, if we could do certain things, and we have implemented it.
I think one of the things I had mentioned to you that you said might be possible was, since the sat box controls my rotator so well, I have repeaters around me that I can turn my beam antenna towards them. I was so shocked once I started using my 2-meter beam on repeaters. I'm hitting repeaters 40 miles away, 60 miles away, and I mean like I'm sitting next to it. There's a repeater 13 miles away. I put the power on the 9700 to 0, and I could still talk to them perfectly clear, 13
Wow.
miles away, and that blew my mind. And I was so
Well, right
impressed.
now, if you know the direction, you can actually point it there. But we
Right.
don't have any presets at this time, and I'm not sure we're going to incorporate presets into that, just because most people use it for satellite, and we don't want to start using up all the memory for features that maybe only one person would use. We're really trying to keep it geared toward satellite operations.
Here we got a good question. First of all, Roger Weed is infatuated with you, Mike. He loves you. You respond so fast. He's very happy
We
with
try
the
our
customer
best.
service. He's got a
Thank
question
you, Roger.
here. He
Yep.
says, please talk about the AP mode when Wi-Fi is not available. Expecting a problem with Wi-Fi this weekend during field day. By the way, I am probably going out to where he is on field day. I think it's where
Okay.
he is. I'm going out someplace northwest of Orlando. I'm going to be driving like almost 2 hours to get there, but I'm going to go there and do a video on it too. They're using a Yaesu rotor and a sat box to do satellite contacts. They got 2 guys going to be setting that up. So I'm going to go give them a hand and do a little video on it while I'm out there. So it should be fun. I
Very
hope the
good.
weather holds up. So tell them about
So-
AP mode. Tell them what that's
Yep.
about.
So, Roger, here's my the best suggestion is if you can get it onto some type of a mobile hotspot. It would work best. You could utilize all the features like the green diamonds, seeing if people are reporting that a satellite is active or not, as well as the QRZ lookup and a couple of things. So the unit will work best when it is connected to the internet. But, however, if internet is out of the question, what my recommendation is before you leave your home, make sure that you update your TLE file as well as your internet database for the frequency database. So update those 2 things, then take the sat tracker out to the field. If you have a GPS one, when you power it up and it has a GPS lock, make sure you go into your location tab. Well, first you have to connect to the unit. So in AP mode, what you would do is from your computer or your tablet or your smartphone is go to the Wi-Fi settings and connect to the CSN, SAT, and your serial number. What that will do is connect to the CSN SAT tracker Wi-Fi network. Now you would open a browser and then go to 192.168 10.4.1 and access the SAT tracker interface just as you would do at home using the IP address assigned by your router. Once you've done that, go to your location tab, and if you have GPS, say use GPS so that it sets your coordinates and your grid square. Make sure that you change the call sign of the unit to the one that you're using for field day so that if you do use the logger in there, the data is correct. And that should be it. That is the easiest way to connect to it in access point mode. If you have access to a Wi-Fi like an iPhone, my suggestion is take the apostrophe out of the SSID name of your iPhone and turn on the compatibility mode. And then it should connect to your iPhone. But you have to remember, if you're going to use your iPhone, you need another device to connect to the SAT. You cannot use the same iPhone to access the SAT's interface that you're using for the Wi-Fi. I hope that I was clear. If anybody else has anything else to add, otherwise, let me know if I answered your question.
You did a lousy job, Michael. So I'm going to show him exactly what you were talking about. I'm only kidding.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
so here's the output of my SAT box. You can see it here. All right. Now, in here, what he's talking about is you go over first before you leave the house while you're still on Wi-Fi, click TLE frequency database. This window opens up. Update TLE right there. Just click on it and wait for it to come back and tell you it has updated. And then you say, okay, over here. And then go over here and say internet update. Don't hit reset from internet. Just hit internet update. If there's any change in any of your frequencies on any of the satellites, this will update the database for the frequency on the satellites. All right. So
but
now
preserve your preset RIT settings and
Exactly.
and any changes that you have made.
Right. So you hit close now. Now, when you get out into the field, what he's talking about is, say you're going to use your phone as a hotspot, and you want the SAT box to connect to your phone to get Wi-Fi. You can't use your phone to also control the SAT box if that's what you're going to do. So what you do is you bring another tablet or something with you. You let the SAT box, you go into AP mode, you go on your phone, and you go to your settings, and you pick the CSN SAT with your serial number next to it as your Wi-Fi connection. So this way your phone is connected directly to the SAT box. At that point, you tell the SAT box you're going to do, this is going to be your Wi-Fi. This is what I want you to use. Put the password in, everything. Hit OK. It will now disconnect and connect to the SSID that you tell it to connect to. So that's how you do that. That's how you get the SAT box on your phone. But you can't use the phone to do that. You would use the other tablet also hooked up to your phone as Wi-Fi to do that. So
Correct.
First, you got to get the SAT box connected to the Wi-Fi, and then you can connect to the Wi-Fi and look at the SAT box based on the IP address that's in the window of the SAT box. Now you'll have this screen will be what comes up on your tablet, and your tablet and your SAT box will both be using your phone as Wi-Fi or your hotspot. If you have a separate hotspot, it's even better.
That is better, and I'll tell you why. Because if you happen to walk away with your iPhone because you received a phone call, you're going to lose connectivity, and then you're not going to be able to control your SAT. So the best way would be with some type of a jetpack or a mobile hotspot, or if your campsite for field day has some sort of Wi-Fi there that is not locked, where when you connect to it, you can't talk between devices. That's the ones that you want to use.
Exactly. Right. And what I find, I've never done it portable, but I'm planning on it when they use the Bluetooth and they get the 705 to work with it. I thought about that. I am not spending $2,600 on two 705s. To me, that's impractical. I would probably use the 705 and another radio and just have the SAT box control the receive maybe and do the transmit on another radio. That's a possibility. I might do that, but listen on the 705. we'll see. Whatever, when it comes out and you figure out how you're going to make it work, that would be great. We'll update
You
it
got to
then.
remember also, though, the 705 is only 10 watts or low power, which is okay. But a lot of times you see you need to use a little bit more power to get into these satellites. Ideally, when I go out and I'm operating from a park, I just take a 9700 with me. If you're going to do it and you're going to spend the money on two 705s, you might be better off just to buy a 9700.
Exactly. It's much
Especially
cheaper.
if you want to be computer controlled or sat controlled.
Right. The other thing, the 9700 ain't cheap. I got mine. It was about $1,100 after the $200 rebate. It's now $1,900 for a 705. I mean, not a 705, a 9700 is $1,900. I mean, they have sales and they have rebates every now and then. You might get it for $18.99. You might get it for $17.99, but it's still damn expensive. I cannot believe how expensive it got. The good news is, I don't know what ICOM was doing up in Dayton with the little pieces of radios they had there that wanted people to speculate on what it was. I'm hoping it's a new base station they're building or something to replace the 7610. But I think the 9700 is here to stay. I don't think that's going anywhere. It's actually a damn good radio, and I use it for everything. I literally talk on my 9700. 80% of the radio work I do is on the 9700, and not just satellites. I go to repeaters. I do, and that's what I like. When I built the Go Box for my 705, I had a duplexer in there, so I had a 2-meter antenna and an HF antenna connected to it at the same time, and you could jump from one thing to the other. And the 9700 does a damn good job of that. So, as a matter of fact, as soon as we get off here, I have it hooked up to IO 117 right now. When we get off of here, I get on the St. Augustine Amateur Radio Society's net, and I jump on there, and they're 30 miles away from me. I just aim my beam at them, and I'm at like 10 watts, and they hear me fine. So it's amazing that how good this radio is. But for satellites, it's the best. And the funny thing is, I bought this radio because it had a satellite mode. And I never use it now because the sat box does everything.
Right, and we'll have to apologize to everybody because we really did make it too easy, and now the satellites are a little too crowded. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah, well, that hopefully the demand will bring more satellites. That's the plan.
We do. That's what we need. We need some countries or AMSAT or to get some satellites launched so that we can have some other options up there.
I got on with, I met Frank from ARISS. They had a conference, and what was it? They had what was it? Oh, it was their 40-year anniversary of ARISS. And they had it at the Kennedy Space Center. It was about $300 to get in. But man, what a good time. What a good time. I mean, they had meals. You had breakfast every day they had for you. Then they had lunches. They brought in like box lunches every day for everybody. And then they had a big banquet under the Saturn V at the Saturn V building, which was incredible.
That's great.
Oh, my God. It was so much fun. We had such a great time. And I got to meet so many astronauts. And that was cool, too, to get to meet the astronauts and see what they're all about, Let me see. I got to fix this screen. Here we go. There we go.
Well, it's very exciting. We were talking about that earlier when we did our Zoom call, where when the astronaut gets on and talks to you and says, welcome aboard the International Space Station. And it's just a great feeling, that you talk to one of the astronauts.
I've done that 7 times. I got Kjell Lundgren 5 times. And actually today is the 2-year anniversary of the first time I talked to an astronaut. It was Kjell Lundgren, and I got him on the ISS. And I'm just, just doing crossband repeat stuff. And you're waiting for somebody to give you a call sign to hear KO4 PDI. This is NA1SS. Welcome aboard the International Space Station. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So then I said it was fake. A guy sent me a recording of him talking to an astronaut. And the guy that was supposedly the astronaut sounded a little like a smartass. He was like, yeah, this is NAISS. Welcome aboard the International Space Station. And I'm like, it ain't NAISS. It's NA1SS. He doesn't even know his call sign. That's not an astronaut. I'm sorry. I didn't believe it was an astronaut. I told the guy, I said, I think you got faked out. He even sent me the recording, and I listened to it 100 times. No, this don't sound right. This is weird. And then
Just leave off the and not.
yeah,
That's what he was.
he was an ass. Yeah. So then, John N2FYA, you guys know him, right?
Yes. Yep.
John posted on the AMSAT page that he talked to an astronaut. And I'm like, come on, you're the only one? Like, John's like up at the middle of the night when the base passes in the middle of the night, and that's when he got him. And he sent me the recording, and yeah, he did. He talked to an astronaut. I was like, good for you, man. That's great.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
That's great. I just want to answer Roger's question there.
Go ahead.
Just with Starlink, sometimes you have to separate. If they combine the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz networks, you may have to log in whoever's account it is and separate the two networks so that they're separate and they have different SSIDs, and make sure that you connect to the 2.4 gigahertz one. We had one customer that had the Starlink, and we had to have him do that. They may have fixed that or improved that, but it's just something to think about when you're doing it so that you don't run into an issue.
That's good to know. I wouldn't even think of that. That's interesting. Yeah, the guy I'm going to be with, I'm going to the Lake Amateur Radio Association Field Day. That's where I'm going on Field Day. And it looks pretty good. It looks like a good time. They have a I think it's the Sheriff's Department shooting range is where it's going to be, and it's outside of Orlando. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be on Field Day, and I'm going to go with them. And they're bringing a Yaesu rotor with an Arrow 2 on it and a sat box with them to do some satellite contacts while we're there. And they're all bent out of shape that there's no decent ISS pass. I'm like, there's a lot of other FM satellites you can get. You should go.
Well, if you're there, it looks like the ISS passes are going to be throughout the night.
Right. Right.
You
like
know,
4 in the morning on Sunday, and also like I think 9 or 10 o'clock at night was when it was going to be.
So we're going to be, me, Frank, and Keith are going to be set up with the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club here in New York, and we're going to have our satellite station set up there also with the 9700, the Sat Tracker, the G5500 rotator, and some type of a dual band antenna that they don't make anymore that we've used before that the club owns, and it works pretty good.
Okay. Lake County is the place where we'll be, and now have an Arrow Alaskan. Oh, good for you, man.
Oh, very
the
good.
Alaskan's a great antenna. It's got more gain than the Arrow 2, so you'll definitely do better with that. And having a rotor and everything, that'll be fantastic. So yeah, we'll have a good time. We'll have a good time. It's going to be I just hope. We've been praying for rain, and the other day normally when I put water in my pool, we get a storm right after that. I have to take water out, or
Nice.
I wash my car and we get a massive typhoon, and then it's like a waste of time washing my car. So the 2 days ago, I washed my car and put water in the pool, and we got about 1/10 of an inch of rain, and that was it. But my lawn breathed a sigh of relief. But now I look at the weather report. From now until a week from Friday, we are going to have 50% chance of rain every day. So my lawn's going to look great. I'm happy. I just hope it holds off till after Field Day.
Here too. The weather, they said a chance of rain, and Field Day is supposed to be pretty hot and humid here, like a high of 90 degrees.
How
so
nice.
hopefully it's not super duper hot, and hopefully it doesn't rain. But it's an emergency communications day, so we'll deal with whatever the weather throws at us.
It's so funny. The local club here, they get together and they're gone by 2 PM. I'm like, that's when it starts. What are you doing? You're not going to stay all night? No, nobody's into it. Half the people that show up eat the donuts and drink the coffee and don't even set up a radio. And like 2 people set up a radio. One year I went there. I'm not even a member of the club. I set up a radio. I made a bunch of contacts for them. And I was just like, come on, what are you going to You're going to do Field Day? No, they don't want to do Field Day. The club I belong to, which is the St. Augustine Club, They're great. They get a big field house on the St. Johns County Fairgrounds. It's all air conditioned. All morning they set up all the antennas. Last year they had a hex beam, they had a delta loop, they had a whole bunch of stuff out there, and then they run enough coax to get back into the building, and then you sit in the air conditioned building all day and run FT8 or whatever you're doing, or talk, whatever you're up to. And nobody up there ever did satellite contacts. And I was like, I was going to do it. And I said, I'd rather go someplace new. So that's why I'm driving out to Lake County. It's going to be fun out there. And I'll film
Good.
it.
And I just want to touch on this that we hit on earlier. When you're setting up your satellite antenna and your rotator and your sat tracker and your radio and everything for field day, make sure that your rotator is at 0 and 0. Mount your antennas so that they're pointing true north and parallel with the ground. You could always adjust it, by turning the tripod or whatever the mount is. And if it's not the normal setup that you use all the time, make sure that you calibrate the voltages by moving the rotator all the way to the right and set your maximum, and then move it all the way to the left and set your minimum. Or you can always use the auto calibration. That should work fine. But that's very important. If your voltages are not calibrated correctly, your antenna won't point correctly. If it's the same setup that you're using all the time, you may not have to do that. But just as a good practice, I always recalibrate after I set everything up, because you never know if something changed, or you're using a different length cable, or it's not the rotator and the sat box that are always paired together. So just keep those things in mind for when you're setting everything up.
When I did my tower, I knew about that. And I said, I might have to call these guys when I move this thing. I don't know if it's going to work. And what I did was I made sure I knew exactly where true north was when they poured the foundation for my concrete for the tower. I made them mark true north on the concrete. They put a nice line in the concrete, and it dried like that, which is great. So when I was putting up the tower, I look at where that is, because picture this, the tower folds down. So the angle to get true north, I had to estimate it based on the line that I had on the concrete. So I'm looking at where it is in relation to the 3 legs of the tower. I go, okay, it's right there. So I got to get the rotor up on the thing. So in the house, I set the rotor at 0 and 0, and I put it there. And then I adjusted the antennas so they were perfectly 90 degrees to the tower. That means they're going to be level when I raise it vertical. I guesstimated on where true north was, and man, I hit the nail on the head. Once I raised up the tower, then I just came into the sat box and I calibrated it. I didn't even try to manually set anything. I just hit calibration, and it worked. And everything's been working great. And the only satellite I have issues with is IO117, which, by the way, was not back yet, just so you know. And don't even plan on it being back, but it's not going to be back again till late tonight, I think, about 10 o'clock. But anyway, that's how I got it in place. Now, the 70 centimeter antenna I have is so much more sensitive than the one that I was using before. The one I was using before was about 11 elements, and it was only about 4 feet long. This thing's 22 elements and 12 feet long. And in my head, I'm saying to myself, is it too good? Because I used to get IO117, I get 20 contacts in an hour. This, I'm lucky I get 3 or 4. It doesn't always work. It's not always digipeating back to me. That could be the satellite, or it could be my antenna's too accurate or something. I don't know. I don't know what kind of experience you've had with IO117. Have you had anything?
That would be some questions for Frank. I have never worked it. And, we've had this discussion before, and I'm not going to get into it 100%. But I would also try, if you get the opportunity, to turn your antennas horizontal, just to do an experiment. I know you have them vertical right now, and you see you've been using them vertical for a little while. You see how everything performs. You know what? If you have the opportunity to lower the tower, turn them horizontally, put the tower back up, play with it for a week, and see if you're getting better performance. I know that you like to use them for the repeaters, but when the antenna is vertical versus horizontal, I think there's about a 20 dB difference in
Right.
gain for
Right.
working the satellites. So just give it a try. We know that ham radio is trial and error and experimenting, and I would try that and see if you get better performance on Green Cube.
See, the reason, and I emailed, Callum did a whole video on, that's the digital commander, DX commander.
Yep.
He
Okay.
did a video on polarization and talked about vertical and horizontal, explained how there's that much difference. But I said to him, I said, none of these satellites are flying straight level except the ISS. And I have no problem with the ISS. So would it make a difference if I had it horizontal or vertical? He says, if the satellite is tumbling, it makes no difference at all, because, and that's the other misconception. People think it's flying straight and level. Okay, it's not flying straight and level like that. It's tumbling, but it's not tumbling in a perfect vertical or horizontal condition. It's like this. It's twisting and turning and who knows what direction it's pointing. So I understand how when it's out of phase, I'm going to lose 20 dB. I get that. But I think if I get a circular polarized antenna, what am I going to get? 5 more seconds of contact time? Or am I going to get...
Yeah, I'm not necessarily recommending a circular polarized, but I think just try it in the other direction and see if you have any better results. Because I've watched some of your videos, and I know Frank, with his antennas mounted horizontal, he can work from horizon to horizon, and he even has some trees and stuff in the way in certain directions. And I've watched some of your videos, and I see where you say, okay, I have some trees, but now I'm at 20 degrees, and you're still not hearing 100%.
Right.
So just give it a shot, that's all.
The other thing people don't realize is Yagi antennas have a null right off the tip. You don't ever want to point. You explained this to me too once about how the sat box actually slightly leads or slightly trails the satellite. It doesn't point right at it. Specifically, because if you're looking at this remote control, I'm holding it in my hand. How much of it do you see? Just this front. But if I just turn it slightly, you see this whole side. So on a Yagi, you have all these different elements now that are picking up the signal, as opposed to this, where it's just getting the one element it's hitting at the end of the Yagi. That's why it has a null off the nose. So I get that. And let me ask you this. And I contemplated this. I thought about doing it, and I had one big question. That aluminum cross arm is going to become part of this antenna if I turn them horizontal, because they'll be parallel with that cross arm. Is that going to be an issue?
See, I don't know the answer, but I just purchased, and I didn't get them yet. I just purchased 2 antennas from a company called Directive Systems, because I'm going to finally mount a satellite station permanently. And he recommended that I use a fiberglass cross arm. So I ordered a fiberglass.
If I'm going to do horizontal, I'll probably have to do that.
Yeah, so I ordered a fiberglass cross arm. I think it's 96 inches. It's an 1.5 inches outer diameter with 1/4 inch walls. So it's a nice sturdy. It's a very strong piece. It was about $100. I'd have to look and see where I got it from. He sent me the recommendation. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Keith or Frank know. Frank actually uses an aluminum mast with his setup, and I don't think he has any coupling, and his SWR is good, but he uses 2 different types of antennas. You know, I don't know what that company recommends.
Frank just unmuted. So tell us, Frank, what are you using?
I'm using end-fed antennas, rear mount antennas. So
wait,
it's
they're not
the
Yagi?
antennas are mounted. Yeah, they are, but the antennas are mounted from the rear.
Oh, okay. So the end of the
not in the center.
Right.
And I am using a metal cross piece, which I think was part of a cyclone fence top rail. I bought my antenna, my 440 antenna, from Directive Systems. I had them set it up for 435.000. So it came assembled and everything. I mounted it with the metal cross pole, and that SWR is perfect.
You know, probably
can't-
because you have it mounted on the end of the antenna. That's
Correct.
why.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
why. Yeah, the ones I have don't have that ability, but I
Because
get it.
these are made pretty much to be put in a H frame if you're going to mount 4 of them for EME or some serious. So the end mounts, so you can make all of your H frame metal.
You just mentioned the dirty word, EME. Of course, that's the next challenge I want to take up. I'm never satisfied. I'm always trying to do more. But EME, yeah, that's the guy that I got that 70 centimeter antenna was so funny. He had 4 of them mounted on one of those setups just for doing EME. He had those, I think those were his transmit, and he had a dish to do the receive. What a setup in this guy's backyard. Oh my God. I looked at it, you thought you walked into a NASA site. There was so many antennas and stuff. And then he's got wire antennas strung along the trees and everything too, you know, just like me. But yeah, it's pretty good.
How many elements?
He had
on 440?
4 22 element Yagis.
Right, but you have a single 22?
Yes.
Yeah, and you have 100 watts on your 75 watts on your 9700?
Yes.
You could work an EME station. You'd have to work one of the giant stations in Europe. Unfortunately, I think one of the biggest ones, he just became a silent key. But there are big stations that do work single 22 element 440 stations with like 100 watts.
Wow.
So it
I'm
is
not
possible.
there yet.
Well,
I think
you
what
know
I'm going
what?
to do is
You should.
yeah.
There's a Discord or one of those things where you get on and they'll tell you who's calling on what frequency and whatever. You literally could type the word moon into your sat tracker.
Right, I've done
See
that.
what you can hear. See what you can hear. They'll tell you what mode they're using on WSJT. There's a mode Q65, I think it is.
Right.
And you might be surprised.
I might try that. I think I'm getting ready to take down the tower because I'm going to add 10 feet to it. It's going to be 50 feet high when I'm done. And I'm thinking of doing that fiberglass cross arm like Michael's mentioning and putting the antennas in horizontal. Now, the other thing I'm thinking of doing is getting rid of the preamps. The preamps I have found only to be noise creators. And I'm having issues a little bit on 70 centimeters. I'm thinking maybe they're causing more problems than they're worth. The way their MFJ preamps, they go for $300 each now. Oof, I couldn't believe that. And I'm thinking of taking them out of line. I originally got them for the egg beaters, and they worked great on the egg beaters. But when you use them on the 9700, when you put that power on to power them, it basically raises all the noise. You see your waterfall goes white because there's so much noise on it now. And as it's raising the signal, it's also raising the noise, which is a pain.
Are they mass mounted preamps?
Yes. And
Are
they're
they
powered by the
adjustable gain?
97. No, they're either on or off.
Okay. Yeah. The Mini 70 that Mike and I are getting, I believe, are adjustable, and you don't want to have so much gain that you raise the noise floor.
Right.
What you're basically trying to do is make up for any loss in the coax cable in the cable run. So if you put too much on there, you're going to raise your noise floor. You want it just enough to compensate. I guess you have like LMR 400 for coax.
Yeah, I bought 100-foot lengths, and eventually what I'm going to do, once I get the tower perfectly set up the way I want it, I'm going to put a ring run along the roof of my house underneath the soffit, and I'm going to run the LMR 400 back to my protection box that I have Morgan protectors in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it, and so that there'll be shorter lengths, and maybe 75 feet when I'm done of coax on each antenna. But first, I want to get the preamps out of there because I really don't need them. They don't really work that great. You know, they just, like I said, they raise everything. They're the MFJ ones, and they were $300 each. What a pain. I was looking at these Mimo or what do they call them? Oh God, I looked at it on DX Engineering the other day. They're circular polarized antennas. I think they go for $269 and $279. But you're not done. You got to get that. Then you got to get a phaser because they got 2 coax connectors on them. You got to get a phaser, and then you get a switch box, and then you could switch from vertical to horizontal polarization on the fly while you're transmitting and receiving.
Well,
And
you have to look at it this way. I'm running horizontal. I have over 4,000 contacts. I have 101 countries on satellite. I have no
wow,
preamp. I have no switching. It's overkill. Most of the stuff is low Earth orbit. They're 400, 600 miles.
yeah,
The ISS you can hear with an HT. The
yep,
only one is the IO-117, which we don't know how long it's going to be around. By the way, I'm copying data from them now, but there's been no digipeats. It's all data.
yeah. That's
So
what I saw
at
too. I
least
was
it's
running it
yeah,
too.
at least it's alive. But
Well,
really, I mean, don't go crazy with all the circular polarization and switching. But I don't think the gain out of that is worth the money and complexity. You don't want to climb that tower when one of those switches goes bad up there.
right. Well,
Why
I don't have
add
to. It
the
tilts.
complexity? Well,
I,
yeah, but
I put a winch
why
on
add
it.
the
It tilts down to the
complexity?
ground. You're right.
Why
You're
add the
absolutely right. That's why I
complexity?
want to get rid of the MFJ
You know,
preamps. As a matter of fact,
right?
I'm using them as incentive to sell these freaking egg beaters that nobody wants to buy from me over a year. I'm trying to get rid of them.
Right.
Nobody wants them. I
No,
practically gave them away and nobody wanted them. I'm like, oh
no,
man.
no, they
But
don't
they
work.
work
They don't
great.
really work. Yeah,
Nah, they worked good when I had them. They're not like you having a Yagi, but they did work. I made a lot of
yeah.
contacts. In 2023, I took all my SatBox ADIF files. Oh, I got another quick question about that. Because after I do a series of passes during the day, I download the ADIF to my computer, and then I was uploading those to Logbook of the World. That's how I would record them, and then I put them on QRZ also. But in 2023, I had 2,343 contacts on satellites. When I went through those logs, I made a separate log on HRD just to see just the satellites. How many contacts did I make? 2,343. And I can't wait to see what I did this year. Hopefully it's more.
Jeez.
But it was actually 2 years ago today I talked to an astronaut for the first time. So that's pretty cool. So what do we got? Let me just check real quick. Macron is saying, how much power is needed for moon bounce? Well, Frank just said you could probably do it with 100 watts. The right antenna.
Only to the stations that are running, like 16, 22 element beams and things like that. There
Right.
are huge stations that have worked you with less. You will not work another moon bounce with somebody running a single element.
Okay.
The heavy lifting is done by these humongous stations that they put up. Hundreds of elements they wind up with, and you can work them. But then, that's a small couple of maybe 10 stations that you can work. But when you get down to, can you work someone with maybe 22 elements, you're pushing it with your single element.
Gotcha.
And you run as much power as you can afford.
So you're telling me I need more elements?
Well, if you want to work other stations,
ends.
you add money and stir. That's how you get on the EME. Add money and stir.
And they say a boat is a money pit in the water. Ham radio is a money pit in the sky. But guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm really bummed out Steve Marlowe didn't come. He's the one that wanted to do this and had questions, and he didn't show up. So whatever. He wanted me to make a video for Gigaparts, like out of the goodness of my heart. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'll get something together eventually. But he says
they are one of our distributors now.
Yeah, right. Gigaparts, they do carry your sat box, which is great. Self-contained antenna tracker. That's the name of the box. And SAT for short. I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. Thank you so much. We got to wrap it up because it's 7 o'clock. I got to be on a net. However, what do we got here? This guy, you notice his call sign, MI7GJT? Lives in Northern Ireland. Macron.
Yeah.
He loves
Yeah.
Donald Trump. That's why he changed his call sign to that. That's Donald J. Trump. Thanks, Macron. Thanks for the support.
There's Trump right there.
There he is right there. Oh, wait, I got you one. Well, hold on, Frank. I got something better. Sit tight. I'm coming back. Don't go away. You're going to love this one. I have a Trump clock in my kitchen, and I have Trump on Mount Rushmore.
Oh God.
Oh, very good.
Oh,
However, watch this.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Now, will stand
Well, I
as an eternal tribute to our forefathers and to our freedom.
I love this. Now, you want to hear funny? When I first got my HT, I keyed the mic to talk to a repeater, and this thing started talking. I was like, I got a ghost in the house.
Oh, the RF got into it, huh?
The RF set off the thing, and it
Yeah.
started talking.
That happens.
Anyway, boys
But,
and girls, ladies
Mike,
and
it was a
gentlemen,
pleasure.
thank you so
Very
much,
good.
Michael. Thank you for all the support. Thank you, everybody who came and watched. We had 10 people watching. Was at the peak, not the record, but I was very grateful for all of you coming by. So
No problem. You're very welcome.
next time, talk a little more.
yeah. Sorry. I just got in from work.
I know you're eating
If
lunch
we
or
had,
dinner or something.
Right.
If we had any technical questions, Keith's the guy, but we didn't have any tonight. So if anybody has any technical stuff, that just have them send us an email.
All right, man. Take
All
care.
all
right,
right. Take
thanks.
care. All right.
Take
All right.
care, Frank.
Bye-bye.
I'll see you, Mike. Wow, that was pretty informative, right? We got 8 people still watching. I was on an hour and 10 minutes, but thanks everybody for coming. Come back again next week. We'll have more surprises for you. And if you want to be on here with me next week, give me a shout. I'll send you the link and you can be on with me. So this is KO4 PDI saying 73. Take care.